Hi all, Rick here. After the recent dabbling into cosmic beings in Star Trek, I thought it's about time I did a video covering my interpretation of a power scale of the most reality-bending beings, or collective of beings, in Star Trek. Now, with this list of the top 11, while I will be going from 11 upwards, I'm going to take the unorthodox stance of listing the number 1 first. It's the Q Continuum, because of course it is, and let's face it, you all suspected as much clicking on the video. Leaving it until the end is kind of a pointless reveal, I think, so yeah. At first place, we have the Q. While it seems they may have indeed evolved into their current power, they are also far from omnipotent, omnipresent, or omniscient. They can choose to do practically anything, choose to exist anywhere at any time, and understand anything they wish to, but it does seem like they elect to do these things rather than experiencing them continually. The Q describe themselves as eternal and having always existed, which also suggests that once they became godlike in power, then they may have retroactively ensured that they always existed as the first beings to ascend to this level of power. Recent lore revelations suggest that their power was found in the pursuit of quantum shenanigans and the manipulation of space and time, while elevating themselves into a new state of existence. Quite how this all unfolded is still a mystery, and should remain so. Q's powers, for all intents and purposes, are limitless, with some feats witnessed including the relocation of Voyager to before the Big Bang, the selective alteration of reality around an individual or an entire timeline, repeatedly, and the continual spontaneous creation of life forms. The only threat to them is other Q, and maybe the heavier hitters on the upper end of this list. Starting at 11th place, however, is probably the hardest choice, as there are a lot of contenders. The Cytherians are going to take the first step on this ladder. Their power and abilities stem from their sheer collected knowledge and understanding of technologies, a power which they can bestow upon others for a limited time. They've got the unusual method of exploration and meeting others, in that they bestow their knowledge and a drive to meet them onto other random people. This then encourages them to make contact with the Cytherians, upon which the individual is returned to normal, and they can say hi. By most standards, this could be seen as a violation of will, even if the intent is benign. Their abilities are purely tech-driven, but they can traverse space at incredible speeds with their subspace distortion drives, and this seems to only be the surface of what they can achieve. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot more on them, but according to novels they can also transmit their minds directly into other technologies and people to manipulate them directly. Compared to later powers on this list, it's rather tame, and honestly, I considered putting the Borg here, if not for their myriad of vulnerabilities that Starfleet has become experts in exploiting. The Thasians are in 10th place. Their powers and abilities are incredibly advanced psionic powers, which they were also capable of granting to others. While we don't get to see much of them, and they thankfully seem to be rather content to stick to Thesis, their own world, rather than interfere with others. They have extensive telepathic abilities which go beyond simply reading minds and communicating. They can manipulate others' minds, forcing them to act how they wish, as well as the telekinesis and projection. This use of psionic powers even extends into the manipulation and interference of technologies, like an entire starship, and most astonishingly, they can even manipulate matter into creating whatever they wish. The inverse seems also true, as they could simply vanish matter and restore other matter too, but whether it was destroyed or displaced is unclear. This basically makes them individual replicators on top of everything else, and it seems to be all biologically driven. They did have ships, and uniquely as non-corporeal beings, their method of transportation was also constructed energy forms. Nothing else was known of how this worked. At 9th place, we have the Nacine, or Caretakers, species. Both advanced in tech and biology, the Nacine are masters of subspace phenomena and arrived in the Milky Way from elsewhere. Only 2 have been encountered, and one of them perished due to age, but their technology was incredibly advanced. The Caretaker's array could remodulate matter inside it like an advanced holodeck, generate huge amounts of energy, and most notably, snatch ships up from anywhere in the galaxy and bring them to it. Such a method of travel was often disruptive, however, damaging any vessel it snared and even the Okumpa homeworld. Alongside their technology, the Nacine themselves were shapeshifters and could exist in subspace layers of their own devising. They could teleport people around, use powerful psionic abilities, and were effortlessly telepathic. They have been similarly powerful psychic beings in Star Trek, even some human espers, but the aptitude for tech pushes them up a rung over the competition. I cannot believe I'm adding this, but Star Trek Lower Decks gave us Badgie. Not quite a unique case on this list either, as Badgie, the errant failed mascot created by Sam Rutherford, went on to go full rogue AI. It connected itself to the entire subspace communications network of Starfleet, managing to gain access to every ship and the combined data across everything in the Federation. This came with an unexpected ascension, however, as he quickly changed his tune from megalomaniacal to seeking true understanding as the universe opened up to him. Following this, like another artificial lifeform we will get to in a minute, he used his newfound perspective and knowledge to leave our reality and begin to explore space-time itself, even entertaining the idea of creating his own lifeforms, seeking to begin new life. Honestly, I actually enjoyed the outcome to this arc, seeing the malevolent and glitched AI achieve enlightenment and a more benign outlook from witnessing all of creation at once. We never got to see what he became capable of in his last moments. Voyager is described as a 12th level power, so that's neat. Have 7th place. The former Earth probe turned to AU energy cloud being was a hoard of information and knowledge, as well as making use of what it found on its quest to discover its creators. Over time, it reached a level where it could digitize and convert matter into a form it could then store within its frame, with a massive cloud of this information flowing around it in arcing lines of energy. Pretty much no force the Federation presented it with could contend with its advance, and it was never defeated. When it merged with the consciousness of a human, it finally gained a measure of imagination that allowed it to ascend further, beyond the cold logic of a machine. Using this newfound creativity, Voyager immediately departed our reality on a new mission to continue to explore and learn, now basically a multiversal being. The Excalbians are a good addition to this list and capable of a lot of feats. Most of their abilities, however, stem from the reuse of their own existences, physical form and essence, to fabricate new things. While this means they have the potential to create, something others on this list actually lack, they can only seem to do so from the finite resources of their own lives, repurposing them into new forms. More than simple shapeshifters, when embodying a form, if it was another intelligent lifeform, they would even assume its personality, morality, and experiences as they understood them. They could witness events remotely, and their technology was also more advanced than Starfleet's, with rapid scanners that could sift through databases and people's minds in seconds. Additionally, they could reach out to disable ships in orbit and manipulate them from a distance. Again, the true extent of their powers was unclear, but with how easily they toyed with people and the Enterprise, as well as their ability to create anything, their potential is clear. The Prophets are completely deserving of a mention on this list, with their total control over time and space, but seemingly only within their non-linear realm inside the Celestial Temple. The wormhole aliens have shown such feats as simple erasing an entire fleet of Dominion vessels that were passing through their corridor, as well as being able to reach out beyond their domain through the use of orbs or possession. The orbs allow them to grant visions directly into the minds of others, but this seems to be something they can accomplish even without using the orbs directly too. While they exist outside of time, it may be a paradox that led to their interactions with Sisko, considering he had to explain offspring in linear time to them before discovering that he was conceived by the Prophet-possessed Sarah Sisko. In terms of raw power, they can engage in telekinesis and energy manipulation, and while during the events of the Reckoning the struggle between the Power Wraith Cosmogen and the Prophet resulted in the major disruption of Bajor itself, despite the battle not taking place there. Floods, quakes and hurricanes battered the planet, while the wormhole itself was unstable. But a large deal of the Prophet's power seems to be drawn and tied to the Bajoran system. If we turn to Beyond the Shows, we can see that while the Q Continuum does not regard them as equal in power, they are incredibly wary of the Prophet's ability to manipulate time, with a struggle between Q and the Prophets resulting in the near unravelling of the Bajor system as reality warped around them. The Prophets, and I guess the Power Wraiths, are around the last entry on this list that Starfleet has any form of protection against, as high chronoton levels can force the wormhole aliens to retreat. The entities after this are yet another step up in power. The Metrons are another non-corporeal being whose exact levels of power are unclear, but they can assume a physical form and teleport around at will. They seem to be able to manipulate space-time to form a variety of phenomena like wormholes or gravity distortions, and guide others using them into situations of their creation. Additionally, they can teleport entire ships around, freeze time while selectively isolating others, and alter memories. They can fabricate technology, materials and other items at their will, and easily hold back threats like a burning atmosphere. It seems likely that they can create worlds, or at least terraform them to suit their needs, as encounters with the Metrons have been centered around their experiments to study the interactions of lower lifeforms. Such experiments necessitate controlled conditions and subtlety on their part, and they are unwilling to leave their space and seem to limit their interactions with others. Before we move on to the final three, well, two, the Q are in first place, I have a couple of honourable mentions. The Guardian of Forever gets a mention here, as it is host to the most advanced time travel the UFP has discovered, even capable of sending others to different realities, yet it does not use this ability for its own ends. The next honourable mention is going to be the Travellers. While they seem to be able to manipulate space-time via thought alone, as an organisation they are very much there to maintain the integrity of the timelines and require technology to further augment their abilities. The last mention I'm going to add here is the 10C, real name unknown. The 10C were a Type 3 civilization from just beyond the Milky Way's edge. While they have long since achieved the ability to harness entire solar systems of energy, they are moving into collecting the energy of the galaxies to power their civilization. While clearly incredibly alien and powerful, they don't quite stack up to the other beings on this list. At third place, the Dowd were extremely powerful beings according to the one encountered by the Enterprise D, going by the alias Kevin Uxbridge. However, while their capacity for destruction is incredible, their ability to create is far less impressive, at least compared to others on this list. The single entity encountered was able to wipe out an entire species from existence in an instant, the Husnock. The entire people, regardless of where they were in space, were simply blinked out of existence in a reactionary blast of rage from the Dowd. Later exhibiting regret for what he had done, Uxbridge lamented that he could not restore them to life, nor resurrect those who the Husnock had killed. The Dowd could create illusions or replicas of other things that were tactile, registered on sensors, and even empathic abilities, but they were not truly there, not alive. The Organians are one of the few on this list that have had very direct impacts on the United Federation of Planets, like the Q. Fortunately, they seem to pursue peaceful outcomes, such as when they enforced a peace between the Klingon Empire and the UFP. Quite why they chose to do this is unclear, but they seem to simply operate on a moral principle of wishing to preserve life, which is a noble objective. The Organians are non-corporeal, but chose to embody humanoid forms to interact with others, completely unconcerned with events unfolding around them until the threat of war between others prompted their intervention. They displayed the ability to manipulate entire fleets of ships should they have to, as well as possession, memory alteration, and the ability to restore life to the deceased. By their own description, they evolved into their current powers from the humanoid form over millions of years, and they do their best to limit their interactions with less advanced civilizations. Generally benign, they do, however, prove completely capable of backing up their demands, and an upper limit to their power has not been established. Next to the Q Continuum, we've not met another species that can exert such influence should they deem it necessary. So there we have it. The top 10, and Q, most powerful species or groups from Star Trek. I think the lower end of this list is debatable, and there are plenty of others that could contend. Additionally, Starfleet has been shown to be able to deal with many of these should they pose a threat, whether through the clever application of science or simple discussion. But just because something is powerful does not necessarily mean it will exercise that power. Even the Q, for all their abilities, don't take it to the level of cosmic alteration that they could do. So perhaps there is a force beyond even them out there that holds them to account. Who knows? Thanks for watching this list breakdown. I've been Rick, and until the next one, thanks again, and goodbye.